in key battleground states widening, and Democrats began to fear a wipeout in the House and Senate. Just days ago, Biden was diagnosed with COVID-19. For his part, Trump told CNN on Sunday that he believed Harris would be easier to defeat in the November 5th election.
In a hypothetical head-to-head matchup, Harris and Trump were tied with 44% support each in a July 15th and 16th Reuters Ipsos poll conducted immediately after the assassination attempt against Trump. Trump led Biden 43% to 41% in that same poll, though the 2 percentage point difference was within the poll's 3 percentage point margin of error. And Harris's approval ratings, while low, are a tick higher than Biden's. But despite earning praise in the last few weeks for her strong defense of Biden, some Democrats remain concerned about Harris's shaky first 2 years in office, short-lived campaign for the 2020 Democratic nomination, and, perhaps most of all, the weight of a long history of racial and gender discrimination in the United States.
It's unclear whether other senior Democrats might challenge Harris for the nomination, or if the party would choose to open the field for nominations. Biden is the first sitting president to give up his party's nomination for re-election since President Lyndon Johnson in 1968. And it leaves his replacement with less than 4 months to wage a campaign.
What a campaign it has been, and there is more to go up until November. What's going to happen in the convention, the Democratic National Convention? That is where Joe Biden is already the presumptive nominee of the Democratic Party. Now he has resigned, saying that he no longer wants to seek re-election. So what's going to happen? What's going to happen to those delegates? There are conversations about the fact that apparently this is going to be an open convention, which means any delegate can basically give their vote to any candidate who's asking for a vote there. Will there be challenges? Now, that's a good question to see. Last week, you saw the Republican National Convention, one of the best conventions that apparently that was there in the U.S. history. Why? Donald Trump managed to bring every single person back into the party and unite the party. Now, the Democratic National Convention, now that's going to be very interesting as well. Will there be challenges to Vice President Kamala Harris? Those matters need to be ironed out, and basically we really need to understand how this is going to proceed. There is conversation that Kamala Harris, despite the fact that she's right there behind us, where we have to put her picture as a presumptive nominee, she might not be the nominee. There could be another third-party candidate who might take that place if the Democratic Party and the Democratic National Convention decides Kamala Harris would not be able to beat Donald Trump in November. Let's take a short commercial break. When we return, my panel will be here, former Foreign Minister Sarah Thamugama and also Attorney at Law Udara Dissoisa. We'll be right back. This is our special report on the U.S. presidential election on the road to the White House.
Rani Sandal, Jasmine Saha, Vitamin E Samagin.
Is on the Derana 24, celebrating a decade of excellence.
Ahonat Naum Bava Kills.
Rani Sandal, Jasmine Saha, Vitamin E Samagin. සමගින්.
Data, talk, text combo කරන් super fast වෙන්න. Anytime combo. ඔබත් අදම 555ක් රීලෝඩ් කර හෝ self cap එක හරහා activate කරගන්න. SLT Mobitel එකම එක සබැඳියාව.
Zesta.
මම කිව්වද හේතුවද?
කරලා බලමුද?
$1 million.
කරමු නේද?
මීළඟ සෙස්ටා වෙළඳ දැන්වීම නිර්මාණය කර රුපියල් මිලියන 2ක මුදල් තෑග දිනා ගන්න. දැන්ම www.mysestastory.com වෙත පිවිසෙන්න.
2024 අධ්‍යයන පොදු සහතික පත්‍ර සාමාන්‍ය පෙළ සිසුන් සඳහා අද දෙරණ එඩියුකේෂන් ගෙන එන සාමාන්‍ය පෙළ පුනරීක්ෂණ පාඩම් මාලාව. ගණිතය රෝෂාන් සෝමරත්න පියල් සෙනවිරත්න. සිංහල ප්‍රසන්න ශ්‍රීමාල් සපුමල් බණ්ඩාර මල්ලව අජන්ත විජේසේන. විද්‍යාව උපුල් ජයසෝම සුදත් දියගු ආරච්චි සඳරුවන්ගේ ප්‍රඥාරත්න. ඉංග්‍රීසි චන්දන කුමාර දර්ශන මඩුරංග. ඉතිහාසය රවි අමරසිංහ උදිත් මාතරගේ. ව්‍යාපාර අධ්‍යනය කසුන් කුමාරණතුංග ලක්මාල් පෙරේරා. තොරතුරු තාක්ෂණය සසිදු ජයතුංග වරුණ ධනංජය ශශිමන්ත දිල්ෂාන්. සෑම සති දිනකම උදෑසන 5ට අද දෙරණ එඩියුකේෂන් නාලිකාවෙන්. අන්තර්ජාලයෙන් නැරඹීම සඳහා අද දෙරණ එඩියුකේෂන් YouTube නාලිකාවට පිවිසෙන්න.
SLT Mobitel වෙතින් දැන් chill එකට ගානට සෙට් වෙන්න. Snapchat, YouTube සහ Facebook package ඇතුළු social media data plan රැසක්.
As Sri Lanka heads to the polls, stay with Other Derana 24 for up-to-date news and information from all angles, from all the candidates.
සීනි ගත්තාමත් බදු ගහනවා, බෙහෙත් ගත්තාමත් බදු ගහනවා, ඇඳුමක් ගත්තාමත් බදු ගහනවා, තැන්පත් කරන ලද මුදලට පොලියක් ගත්තාමත් බදු ගහනවා.
රට ගොඩනගන මේ මානුෂීය දෙහිවුමේ කොටස්කරුවන් බවට ඔබ පත්වන්නට සූදානම් වන්න.
ඔනෑන ආර්ථිකයක් ඇති කරලා අපේ තරුණ තරුණියන්ට හොඳ අනාගතයක් දෙන්න සැලැස්මක් මම ඉදිරිපත් කරනවා කියලා මං කියන්න කැමතියි.
From all the sectors.
වික්‍රමසිංහ මැතිතුමා ජනාධිපතිවරණට ඉදිරිපත් වෙනවා කියන එක සමග ජන බලවේගයට මරු පහරක්.
යුද්ධෙට නායකයා ඉස්සරහ යන්නේ නැහනේ.
කය ගහන කය නායකලටවත් අර බස් ඩ්‍රයිවිං කරන සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාසටවත් රට හදන සැලැස්මක් නෑ.
පොහොට්ටුවට දාන්න ජනාධිපතිවරණයට අපේක්ෂකෙක් නෑ කියලා. කොයි පොහොට්ටුවද නැත්තේ? බැසිල්ගේ පොහොට්ටුවටයි නැත්තේ. ජනතාවගේ පොහොට්ටුවට ඉන්නවා.
මහමැතිවරණයක් දෙනවා නම් මහමැතිවරණයට සූදානම්. ජනාධිපතිවරණයක් දෙනවා නම් ඒකට සූදානම්.
News, analysis and opinions.
TF එකේ පොලිය පොදු මහජනයාට 9%යි මහ බැංකු සේවකයන්ට 29%යි.
The United States has continued to interfere in internal matters of the nation, be it overthrowing a government.
What can the SJB bring to the table that is different from what the government is offering?
මේ සැරේ බලන්න අපිට 69යි ඒගොල්ලොන්ට 3යි. මොකද ඔබේ ප්‍රතිචාරය?
Information you need, information you seek, around the clock, 24/7.
මේ රට ආරක්ෂා කර ගැනීමට නැවත ඉදිරිපත් වන්නට.
ඉන්දියාවට අවශ්‍ය කරන ආකාරයට එක්කගේ විසුම සම්පාදනය කරගෙන.
මේ සක්කරයටවත් පර වෙච්චි පොට්ටු පුප්පුවක් දාන්න බෑ.
ඒවල අපි වැටුනේ නෑ. අපි හිටියට වැඩිය හොඳට නැගිටලා යනවා.
ආණ්ඩුව සටනේ ඇත්තම නෑ ඇඩසුත් නෑ.
On all trusted Other Derana platforms, Sri Lanka's story is changing again, and we are here to tell you how. Other Derana 24, celebrating a decade of excellence.
ස්පීඩ් ලිමිට් නැතුව හයි ස්පීඩ් HD වීඩියෝ බලන්න SLT Mobitel Aviator Prime රුපියල් 1555යි මාසෙට ඇතිවෙන්න GB 45යි ඕන ජාලයකට voice calls SMS.
විද්‍යාත්මක පර්යේෂණයකින් තහවුරු කළ දෑතට සුමුදු කුමාරිකා ස්වාරය සහිත ටීපෝල්.
Welcome back, everyone, to our special coverage on the road to the White House. Incumbent President Joe Biden apparently misses out, and he is stepping down, saying that he cannot be the nominee and make sure that he fight against Trump. Simply put, this news comes after polling in Michigan came out. Now, I'm back with my panel, Dr. Sarath Amanugama, our former foreign minister, and also Dr. Udara Distoisa, the head of Bandaranaike Center for International Studies. Not the head, the person who's in charge of public law. Welcome back. We were just here talking about the debate 2 weeks back. And I was with Dr. Amanugama, I think, on a Sunday when Trump got shot. This election is becoming very interesting, gentlemen, and it's like a soap opera that is coming from the Latino countries. Doctor, let me start off with you. Biden was on the fact saying, no, I'm not going to step down. I am going to continuously fight, and if you want to challenge me, come to the polls and at the convention and challenge me there. Suddenly, within hours, this changes. How do you see it? Who's so strong enough to do a change such as that? Because it is very detrimental to the Democratic Party.
Firstly, Mahesh, I think we can deconstruct Biden's own statement. That is the closest we get to the facts. The first is, he says, I'm going to continue till the end of my term.
Yeah.
There was the option of an immediate resignation and then handing over power to Kamala Harris, but he opted, in keeping with the tone of what he has been saying all along, that he will continue up to November and try to pursue his agenda up to November. So that's the first takeaway. The second is his very warm and strong endorsement of Kamala Harris. He had the option of keeping quiet or throwing it open to the convention to find a person, lots of options, but he has now very firmly planted his flag in the Kamala Harris camp. And number three is that he has now presented his decision as a sort of big dedication to the future of the country, the future of the party, future of the people, and so on, not as a consequence of various infirmities that he had. So that is the deconstruction we can make on his immediate statement. But behind it, of course, as you mentioned, we must find out what were the political forces that made him take this decision. Lately, we had a mounting number of Democratic congressmen and senators saying...
Is it his age?
No, not age. Age, because at the beginning, when all these people were talking about the presidency, they didn't raise the question of Biden's age. But main problem was that, as we discussed last time, after the debate, the media coverage of Biden changed completely. And today there is a debate in America as to whether the liberal media had been covering up and not depicting the true state of this man earlier. But the answer to your question is that the crescendo of congressmen and senators saying that their own chances will be badly affected was joined by two powerful persons. One is Nancy Pelosi, who handled the Senate and the Congress earlier, and of course Obama. So one could surmise that it was the decisive intervention of three categories: their own local political representatives, then Nancy Pelosi and Obama coming together, which left very little option for Biden but to step down.
Let me come to you, Dr. Udara who is the attorney at law, who is an attorney at law, and also the head lecturer at Bandaranaike Center for International Studies. You are also the analyst at Jimmy Carter Research Center. You know a lot about the intricacies of the United States politics and things like that. But you are an attorney at law, and let me ask you this question. Now, the argument the Democrats have been making against Donald Trump is that Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. Now, democracy is majority rules, basically, if you put it in a nutshell. Joe Biden was voted in by the party. He didn't take it, it was not a ceremony where he was coronated as the nominee of the party. He was voted in. The primaries took place. People, the members of the Democratic Party took part in that election, and they basically came and gave their vote. Now, the Democratic Party say that vote doesn't count because apparently we can't beat Donald Trump, so we needed someone else, completely throwing out that entire election that they had with the primary process. How is that not the real threat to democracy, where you completely disregard? Because someone can argue, let's say it's Kamala Harris and another person, as soon as Kamala Harris wins, if there's a big if there, but if she does, the Democratic Party can say, well, Kamala is not suitable, maybe she needs to step down and the vice president will be the president. This particular confusion is now completely hanging over the Democratic Party.
So, explaining a little bit, whether Kamala Harris win this election is, that's, to be honest, close to a miracle at this point, looking at all kind of pollings and survey information that you can see. But apart from that, Mahesh, how the election process works in US is very different to our system. Yeah. As you said, it works through almost like a super democratic manner, where the parties do not pick but rather vote through the registered voters. So you have in US, you have people who are registered as independent, registered as Democrats, and registered as Republican. So if you are registered as a Democrat, you have the right to vote in a primary to select whoever you want to run for the president. So the nominee is also voted in. Right, correct. So this is like very different level of democracy that we're discussing here. So one of the, now you will see probably in the next debate whether for President Trump will in fact vote Vice President Harris, with the argument put forward that she's not a legitimate candidate. So yes, indeed, I think this will hang over the shadows. And however, I think for any Democrat to challenge her at this point would be political suicide. I did see. Why do you say that? Because I think that the Democratic establishment is forcing her to be the new face. But if you actually look at it, Doctor, that she's not a good candidate. If you look at the rest of the pack in the Democratic Party, there are really good candidates who can actually beat Donald Trump, and polling says so. But here we have Kamala Harris completely screwed up the entire vice presidency, gave a very bad name for women and also black community, African Americans, and even African Asians. So in a situation like that, how can the Democratic Party say she's the one? The answer is Democratic Party has lost its sense in terms of what's happening in the ground. So I think this is one of the reasons why the party has come to what it is now, as I think they have lost that sense with the normal people, and I think the party is putting what the party wants, not necessarily what the people want, the supporters want. So I think this will be interesting and almost like political suicide for the Democratic Party to go in this journey, and I think the soap opera is yet to unfold. The convention is coming in, I think, in early August. You think it's going to be dramatic there as well?
No, you see, the infrastructure of a candidate for the American presidency is very crucial. Now, Biden had built up, for example, the donors list. Then he had got, for example, through the primaries, he had secured the consent of a majority of people who would have given him the nomination at the convention. So there is an established procedure which, to be fair, Kamala Harris can inherit easily. For another person, however popular he or she may be, it will not be easy for them to come and grab hold of that whole infrastructure which has been evolved actually from the time that Biden became president, especially the donors. The first attack on Biden's plans to come back next year was the donors. The donors, starting with the Walt Disney said we are not going to give money to him. So that was a very important thing. So I don't know whether...
Doctor, who's running the Democratic Party? Because it doesn't look like it is the members of the people of the Democratic Party. No, it looks like the hierarchy and a very few wealthy billionaires.
No, it's the same with the Republican Party. Soon after the debate and certainly after the shooting, the funding for the Republican campaign has gone up astronomically. It's astronomically. But as Doctor said, the American system is very democratic in the sense that you have to get through the primaries. So primaries are voted on by their members.
My argument, I'm putting that argument to you as well. That democratic process is neglected right now by the hierarchy of the Democratic Party. And when this question was raised by many journalists, American journalists from the the Democratic Party itself, the members of it, what they said was, well, we're going to go in for a convention and anybody can apply, anybody can basically vie for power, and if by any chance the convention selects. So what was the reason we had the primaries? There was no reason to have the primaries. We could have done this and saved a lot of money.
No, that's not correct, because in the convention, the presidential nominee declares the vice president. As it happened now in the Republican case, J.D. Vance was nominated at the convention by Trump. So then the convention agrees to it by acclamation. In rare cases, maybe the convention can throw that person out. But whoever is vice president has the full support of all those people who gather at the convention. So really the slate, what is called the president and vice president slate, has the full endorsement of the party through the convention.
Dr. Zara, do you think there's going to be a legal battle as soon as the convention comes into play, and if by any chance there isn't a clear candidate and a supermajority or a majority is being won by either Kamala Harris or anybody who's vying for power, do you think it's gonna drag on, or do you think the Democratic Party is actually united behind Kamala Harris?
I mean, in terms of law, I don't think so. I don't think this will go to that level, mostly because I think I am seeing the fact that the Democratic Party and the donors, the funding community of the DNC has made up their minds. And except maybe for some, like the West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin, few people, other than a few people, nobody is really actually standing up against Kamala Harris. If you look at the social media, you can see the majority of the people are just throwing behind Vice President Harris. So I think it will be very unlikely. But like Dr. Amanugama said, I mean, this the outcome will be not as what DNC probably would want. And I think earlier Dr. was saying that with the polling numbers now, maybe what if she pulls up around 100 when compared to 300 of for President Trump, this will be a landslide for president, and this will be quite bad for the Democratic Party.
Talking about landslides, again, Dr. Amanugama, not to talk about your age, but apparently when I was watching a lot of American television since last night, when this incident, when this announcement occurred, They were comparing this to the 1968 convention where I think Ronald Reagan had a landslide. He was a Republican nominee, but the Democrats, the president, incumbent president at that moment, also decided, I'm not going to seek re-election. Let somebody else do it. But it was nothing to do with health or anything. He just decided the pollings were saying that he's not going to win. So there's a similar situation here, and everybody was comparing this too. And at that moment, that particular Republican candidate, Ronald Reagan, won that election in a landslide. Do you think that is exactly, not exactly per se, but is there similarities of that? Do you think if the DNC does not get a right candidate that is viable for the people and to unify the party, it's going to be a landslide for Trump?
Yeah, the polls, I looked at the polls last night. They are clearly showing that Trump will win by a landslide, over 300 votes in the Electoral College. But there is another factor. Kamala Harris is also a symbol. She's a woman and she's a black woman. So
Asian woman as well, South Asian.
But generally coming under the category of black. So no Democratic Party will try to find a person who will alienate that huge bloc, which is I think 70-80% Democratic. That is like a base of the Democratic Party. So win or lose, when they think of, actually what they are now gambling about is what is going to happen to the congressional elections, what is going to happen to the Senate elections. Because they are very jealous, like I suppose like our own MPs, they want to be returned. The first primary concern is to get back to the Congress or to the House.
Yeah.
So now they concluded, if it's Biden, we've had it, you know. So now they dare not shift that black women caucus, that support, which will mean that the consequences will be far worse than having Kamala Harris there when it comes to the domestic scene of their local state elections.
I'm going to ask a question before we take a break. Dr. Dara, do you believe the polls?
Sorry?
Do you believe the polls? Because there was a situation just like this in 2016 where every single poll said Trump will never win. And here we are now telling the other side of that story.
I think largely the polls have been accurate when it comes to US elections, except for 2016, which was
everybody got it wrong.
The nightmare for all the pollsters, right? However, I think it was obvious that President Biden was not an attractive candidate anymore. And in my opinion, I'm not really sure whether he did the right thing or wrong thing, because looking at the option that is to replace him doesn't look that better either.
Yeah,
so
because it doesn't look democratic at all.
And it's like a lose-lose situation for the DNC at this point.
Let's take a short commercial break. You're watching our special report on the U.S. presidential election on the road to the White House. There's a massive development that came last night, late last night, where the incumbent president, Joe Biden, said that he is not seeking re-election. And our conversation is basically stirring around that. We'll be right back.
මම කිව්වද හිතුවද
කරලා බලමුද
$1 million
කරමු නේද
මීළඟ සෙස්ටා වෙළඳ දැන්වීම නිර්මාණය කර රුපියල් මිලියන 2ක මුදල් තෑග දිනා ගන්න. දැන්ම www.mysestastory.com වෙත පිවිසන්න. Data, talk, text combo කරන් super fast වෙන්න. Anytime combo. ඔබත් අදම 555ක් රීලෝඩ් කර හෝ self care එක හරහා activate කරගන්න. SLT Mobitel එකම එක සබැඳියාව.
ශ්‍රී ලාංකික සිනමාවේ ටෙලිවිෂන් සවිබලය බයිස්කෝප් අනුත්ම විශේෂාංග රැසක් සමගින් කියවන්න ටෙලිවිෂනයෙන් සිනමාව සිනසුරාදා උදේ 9:00ට
SLT Mobitel වෙතින් දැන් chill එකට ගානට set වෙන්න. Snapchat, YouTube සහ Facebook package ඇතුළු social media data plan රැසක්.
Derana Skill Force.
පොළොන්නරුව සම්ප්‍රාප්තිය වයස 16ට වැඩි ඔබ ජූලි 31 උදේ 9ට පොළොන්නරුව කාර්මික විද්‍යාලයට එන්න. අධ්‍යාපන අමාත්‍යාංශය සහ දෙරණ මාධ්‍යජාලයේ බලගැන්වීමකි.
This program is sponsored by
මේකෙන් සිතන්න දෙමාපියන් පණමින් සුරකිමු.
Hot and spicy partner.
Prima Kotturi Pantamai.
Nutrition partner.
Anchor Family Pro Plus මගේ පවුලේ පෝෂණයට මම එකතු කරගන්නවා.
Anchor Family Pro Plus. සම අනුග්‍රහය. Alumex වෙතින් dwelling. Alumex dwelling. ගත්තා තිබ්බා හයි කළා.
ස්පීඩ් ලිමිට් නැතුව හයි ස්පීඩ් HD වීඩියෝ බලන්න SLT මොබිටෙල් ඒවියේටර් ප්‍රයිම් රුපියල් 1555යි මාසෙට ඇතිවෙන්න GB 45යි ඕන ජාලයකට වොයිස් කෝල්ස් SMS.
Welcome back, everyone, to our special coverage, the special report on the U.S. presidential election on the road to the White House. Joe Biden is not asking for a second term. He's going to be a one-term president. This time around, it's nothing to do with the fact that he doesn't want to. It's just the polls are telling him that he can't make it through. So there is a problem there. And right now, the Democratic Party is so much, despite the fact that a lot of people are saying, you know, they're united, they have Kamala Harris, and they will get everything sorted out. That's, well, we have to wait and see. My panel today is Dr. Sarath Amudugama, our former foreign minister, and also Dr. Udara Soisa, attorney at law, who is a lecturer for public international law at the Bandaranaike Center for International Studies. I hope I got that right. Yes. Last time around I said you're the head. Apparently you're not the head. But apologies there.
No worries.
So let's continue, Dr. Amudugama. This time around, Trump, when you look at the Republican National Convention, it was very successful for Trump. He came out after a shooting. He did not hide and basically went in like what Biden did when he got COVID. He came back into the convention, rallied the party, got the party very excited. The entire atmosphere was like electrifying. Everybody was comparing the convention to 2008 Obama's convention. In a situation like that, they were pitching the entire story to the American people that Biden was bad. Now, in a situation where Kamala Harris takes the head of the ticket, do you think they completely have to redo the whole process, or if not, they just go on with what they have?
Well, Trump is on a roll. You know, there was a headline in an American newspaper. They shot at Trump, but killed Biden.
Yes,
you know? Yes. So everything is going his way. He survived that attack, did very well in the debate, and of all things, for the incumbent president to get COVID at the key moment in the campaign. So all that has created this problem. And what commentators say is that Trump, at least in the first part of his speech, he tried to get to middle ground. Because everything says that he's going to be the next president. He should not take extreme positions just now to try to get, so in other words, what they call the big tent.
Yeah.
The big tent policy. It will make the party into a big tent into which all sorts of categories of people can come.
But that's going to be a problematic effort because they don't have time to get everybody unified behind one single candidate, and they must, the Democratic Party per se.
No, Democratic Party is going to have a terrible time. They are going to have a terrible time. And with Kamala Harris, they are in a bind because symbolically she stands for the type of vote base that Democrats are trying to build up. But personally, she is not going to get very many extra votes. And the other thing is she's from California. California is a sure state.
Yeah, exactly.
Whoever comes with the Democratic cap on his or her head gets that. And yesterday I was listening to some commentary. She is totally unknown in the Rust Belt, virtually unknown. You know, unknown in the South, unknown in the Rust Belt, unknown in the New England, Connecticut, that part of the traditional, intellectual area. So she has to go entirely on the democratic setup rather than any name recognition of herself. But what is her strong point is that she's a woman and she's black. So those two will give her some leverage, but not
Doctor,
enough to win, I think.
A lot of reports continues to say that she's not that liked within the African American community. They basically despise her because of the simple fact that she did not do a good job. And as an Attorney General in California prior to this entire gig, she used to put a lot of people, a lot of black people in prison, and that went bad for her.
No, that's the sort of personal factor. But when she comes from the Democratic Party, she inherits a large swath of votes, because that's a democratic, what you call the base vote of the Democratic Party. You see, today in America, the Democrats and the Republicans have what is called the base vote. In Sri Lanka also, we don't think of the base vote and the majority vote. So every emphasis is on the base vote. So that base vote for the Democrats is still there, but not enough in terms of the American system of the college and things like that to put her over the top. So it looks very, very, very much, unless something very drastic happens, that Trump will be the next president.
Dr. Dara, with regard to what the game plan for the Democratic Party right now, what do you think? Because they have to first get their house in order before they go and start hammering Donald Trump. Donald Trump is not just a sheep. He will bulldoze everything. So you got to get your game plan right. You got to know what the messaging is. It has to be accurate. It has to be, basically rally the entire base of the Democratic Party plus the undecided, because they will be the one. Do you think it's a doable fact?
Highly unlikely, and I tell you why. Now, for example, after the assassination attempt on former President Trump, I think the whole rhetoric was told to be lowered, not to call him Gaddafi or any of these damn callings, because, for example, that would not be the popular thing to do. So by giving that level of sympathetic respect for him, President Trump, and almost like fighting a campaign with one, I would say like fighting a boxing match with both hands behind your back, having this victim of an assassination attempt running in one side, and you have the other main candidate, the current president, stepping down at a crucial time, a few months before the real deal. I think this is a very uphill task for the party.
Do you think they did that, like the seniors of the party? If you look at Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, the seniors of the party, the ones who have actually been Nancy Pelosi, everybody was more focusing on the Congress and the Senate, understanding the fact that the presidency is gone. The polling, none of the candidates have the ability to go against Trump and win. None of the pollings are saying that. So in a situation like that, do you think that they were more focusing on saving the Congress and saving the Senate?
Could be, and I'll tell you why also. Now, there could be more than 3 Supreme Court seats vacant within this next term. So if Democrats are able to have the majority in the House and the Senate, they may be able to block some of these candidates, because if you look at the system, you need to have the Senate approval. So perhaps that might be something, because if Democrats lose the President, Senate and the House, ultimately Trump will get a free ride within those 4 years. So I think this could be the B plan, which might be the plan right now, as Professor Dr. Amarugama said. They shot at one person and somebody else got killed, right? And this is almost like a foregone conclusion, if you ask me, at this point, unless something extremely crazy happens.
I keep hearing that from both of you gentlemen, something extremely goes wrong. What do you think, Dr. Amarugama, what could go wrong for Trump at this moment?
Well, as far as I can see, nothing can go wrong for him at this stage. But as you rightly said, Doctor, the game will be in the selection of the Congress and the Senate. That will be the last ditch. And I anticipate people like Obama and all their stars concentrating on that. There is also another school of opinion which is that if Michelle Obama can be drafted, the convention has a power of drafting people. They need not come through this whole...
but she continuously says she doesn't want to.
She has denied, but logically, if at least a fight is to be given, because then that black woman, that category which cannot be touched as far as the Democrats are concerned, that problem also will be overcome. So, looking from outside, it's going to be a terrible debacle for the Democratic Party. The only way they can even have a shot at it is to bring someone like Michelle Obama.
Celebrity candidate, do you think if there is, like what the good doctor says, if Michelle Obama comes in, she has to step into the vice presidential spot. Do you think she would be willing to do that? And do you think, like, even let's say Obama pushes her to do that, she would be a good candidate, like a politician?
Better,
I mean,
but
First Lady is not...
But not enough. Now, if you look at Mahesh, if you look at Hillary Clinton's path to presidency, like, with so many years of experience, in fact, and being the first lady, and with almost like the democratic structure behind her, still she was not, obviously she had some skeletons in her closet, right? With emails, scandals, etc. However, I think putting somebody totally new may give some votes, but I think ultimately it will be somebody who has been within the structure, who has been within the system, to support. I think it will be difficult. Whoever you put at this point, maybe if you give Obama, obviously it's not allowed. A third term might be impossible.
Even recruit, vice president, because the vice president should be able to take on the presidency.
That is the legal point, yes.
So there's no way.
No way.
Doctor, let me ask you this. In a situation where, let's say, the crucial community right now in the United States, I mean, I'm referring to the elections in the United Kingdom. Now, the Conservative Party at that particular moment was a party that was having a very rich number of seats in the House of Commons. And come election under Rishi Sunak, who is not seen as very British per se. I know this may sound like a very racist question, but we need to discuss this factor. There is a lot of people, there are a lot of whispers within the United Kingdom which said that apparently it's because of that the voters was not basically going for the voting. If you look at the number of votes that Keir Starmer got, it is not a majority, it is not a clear mandate. He got a very low level of votes, but higher number of seats. Now, in a situation like that, do you think that particular burden of not being the white American is going to be on the shoulders of Kamala Harris in case she is going to be the nominee of the Democratic Party? Because there are lots of middle class workers in the Rust Belt and also battleground states like Michigan, Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. All those people are not exactly looking at, they're very American, so to speak. Do you think it's going to be a burden for her?
No, first on the question of UK, that's a sheer question of suicide by the Conservatives, because over 100 seats, the vote was split between the Conservatives and Farage's party, and as a result, though the majority of voters in that particular constituency was against the Labour candidate, on the first past the post system, the Labour candidate comes to Parliament. So really it was a question of how the Conservatives managed this more conservative wing, as it were, led by Nigel Farage, who is now being touted probably as a likely unifier, of the Conservatives. But as far as America is concerned, we already have Obama. I mean, you need a critical state.
I'm again going back to what happened in 2016. Yes. Hillary Clinton was, I think, very qualified. She was even white. She was basically First Lady, Secretary of State. All the credentials were right on the top, but people never gave her a chance because they never believed her. She had a very bad mojo to say within Middle America. Do you think that is going to be another factor in Kamala Harris?
No, in Clinton's case, it was a very bad strategy because you know the three blue states were lost by her to Trump. Trump also had special qualifications to attract that type of redneck voter at that time. But Clinton's strategy was in tatters because, as you know, the total poll was for Clinton. But on the American system, it was Trump who won. So, no, I don't think that that color, it has its pluses and minuses. Yes, yeah. So, it is a bigger issue now in America because Biden was the front runner. Everybody thought he will get a second term, and he had a very attractive local package. Yeah. Better labor laws, more social welfare. They say that Biden was the most within quotes, leftist, most socialist. Not exactly social, but in a way, that type of president that America has had for a long time. That was Biden's boast. Look at my labor legislation, look at my fiscal legislation, look at my tax regime. All that was very, very much close to a radical position. So they were hoping to go along with that. Now with these other extraneous factors, he's in a bad way.
Dr. Dara, the same question. Do you think for Kamala Harris, the race factor and the fact that she's a woman is going to be a burden or a plus point?
I think it will become almost irrelevant. I tell you. Now, if you look at the statistics of her conviction while she was the prosecutor, you don't, I mean, her basic fighting crime ability and the focus has made her almost a villain and almost evil among the same community that she claimed to represent. And when you look at Obama, for example, who had a civil rights background, where you actually fought for the rights of the community versus somebody who played a prosecutor's role and putting people behind the bars, right? You don't see that level of charisma. And she doesn't look, the optics of Vice President Harris is not preferable. And in fact, last night I was talking to some of my friends from who work with us at Jimmy Carter's Center, and they were telling this is suicide. You cannot, unless she picks some amazing, I don't know who this amazing person is, VP, I think this road is close at a very bad level.
I understand when you say that her entire image is very bad in comparison to Barack Obama. You just have to look at those clips where she loves maniacally, and then everybody understands, well, we are doomed at the moment. I want to understand exactly what the Democratic Party and the Democrats they are thinking about a possible nomination nod for Kamala Harris, the Vice President of the United States. Joe Biden already said that he's endorsing her, and there are lots of other members also have endorsed her, but it is at the convention it'll become the law of the land, and she would be the nominee of the Democratic Party. We still don't know how that convention will go by, but it's going to be a very interesting one. So what do the Democrats think about this? Our other Derana special correspondent who is in Toronto, Canada, is following that story, and she filed this report, Suzanne Chenali.
For Democratic voters who have spent much of the summer brooding about President Biden's fitness for office, his decision not to seek re-election came as a relief. Now they figured their political party might stand a chance in November, though many still expressed deep doubts. Some voters even went as far to say they were absolutely overjoyed about Biden's announcement. Just last weekend, many of these voters participated in a demonstration outside of the Ohio Democratic Party convention calling for Biden to step aside, stating that if Biden had stayed in, the party would have lost absolutely everything, echoing the feelings of many Democrats. There were specific fears on losing the House, the Senate, and the potential for a landslide win for the other camp. The delicate subjects of whether Biden, who is 81 years of age, was fit for another term and how long he might stay in the race after his disastrous debate performance last month had found their way into conversations at dinner parties, neighborhood parks, and church gatherings. The end of Biden's candidacy shifted some Democrats' emotions from profound anxiety to hopeful determination, even if what comes next for their party remains unclear. There was also plenty of resignation to the idea that no Democrat might be able to pull off a victory against former President Donald J. Trump. All in all, Biden's endorsement of Vice President Kamala Harris to replace him on the ticket drew quick support from some voters eager to chart a path forward. But underscoring the party's tumult, others were certain that Harris, whose own presidential campaign 4 years ago fizzled, would face ugly attacks and rejection. Over to you, Maish.
Thank you very much. That was Susan Shonali, the Derana World News special correspondent reporting from Toronto, Canada. Let's take a short commercial break. Let's talk right after the break. Let's talk about the VP nominee for Kamala Harris, who could actually make a ticket that is formidable and that will be able to take on Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. That duo seems to be riding a very high wave right now, unless there's like these gentlemen said, something really bad happens prior to the elections. You're watching our special report on the U.S. presidential election on the road to the White House. We'll be right back.
Data, talk, text combo කරන් super fast වෙන්න. Anytime combo. ඔබත් අදම 555ක් reload කර හෝ self cap එක හරහා activate කරගන්න. SLT Mobitel එකම එක සබැඳියාව.
Swisstech Aluminium. ඔබේ නිවහනේ සොඳුරු බව.
Vibe එකට set වෙන්න. SLT Mobitel. SLT Mobitel වෙතින් දැන් chill එකට ගානට set වෙන්න. Snapchat, YouTube සහ Facebook package ඇතුළු social media data plan රැසක්.
ශ්‍රී ලාංකික සිනමාවේ ටෙලිවිෂන් සවිබලය බයිස්කෝප් අලුත්ම විශේෂාංග රැසක් සමගින් කියවන්න ටෙලිවිෂනයෙන් සිනමාව සිනසුරාදා උදේ 9:00
ස්පීඩ් ලිමිට් නැතුව හයි ස්පීඩ් HD වීඩියෝ බලන්න SLT Mobitel Aviator Prime රුපියල් 1555යි මාසෙට ඇතිවෙන්න GB 45යි ඕන ජාලයකට voice calls SMS.
Welcome back, everyone, to our special report on the U.S. presidential election on the road to the White House. We've been talking about how the events that unfolded a few hours ago with regard to the announcement of Joe Biden, who said that he is not seeking re-election. He's going to be a one-term president. Along with me this afternoon is Dr. Sarath Amruguma, our former foreign minister, and also Dr. Udara Soisa, attorney at law, who is a lecturer for public international law at the Bandaranaike Center for International Studies. Gentlemen, this is our last few minutes of the program. Let me start with you, Dr. Udara. In terms of this this entire election, it comes down to the Electoral College, which is a very funny thing in American system. If you look at Sri Lankan elections, basically the guy who gets 51% plus 50% plus 1 is the winner. So popular vote is the key. We are very democratic in that manner. But in an instance of the United States Electoral College, which is very confusing to a lot of people, despite the fact that you get the most number of popular votes, you still might not be the winner, which was the case, as you pointed out earlier on in 2016. Hillary Clinton had more votes, but did not win the Electoral College. Do you think that particular entire system is very democratic?
It is more Republican and also very federal. If you look at the history of US, from 13 states to 50 states, you can see it was in reality never meant to be a single country like Sri Lanka or India. Right? It's a very earlier, it was before the Civil War. It was actually loosely connected federal system, and now it has come to a point of almost like a modern 21st century state. It was never meant to have a democratic tradition like a normal state does. And one of the worries that the founding fathers of US had was for the almost like a dictatorship of the populism of the entire all the states. So rather than giving that option for the votes to interconnect between states, so they have given it to each state, right, to decide, and ultimately they will put their nominees, right, and that's how ultimately election will run.
In a situation like that, if the founding fathers of America was not projecting the fact that populism is that's bad, Trump kind of broke that rule, and he's very popular in all the states, and he's very well known. So that argument doesn't actually continues to be.
What I meant to say.
No, I mean like in American Constitution, like if you look at India is really a democracy where they have months and months of elections, and finally the popular vote wins. Here in Sri Lanka also, should America must be looking in a different.
Not necessarily. If you look at the population of the California, for example, if you look at the numbers, I think there are more Democrats than Republicans, but they are centered in certain key states like California, etc. So just having those numbers in those states wouldn't help. Now in Sri Lanka, if that was the case, you're still going to have all of them collected, and the proportional system will push the candidate through. But that was never something that was meant within the US Constitution at any level.
Dr. Munugama, with regard to the vice presidential pick for Kamala Harris, if we hypothetically think if Kamala Harris is the nominee of the Democratic Party and is going head-to-head with Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, who is a very popular senator from Ohio, who should she be picking? Should someone from the Rust Belt area, or someone who can actually add a more popular voter base to her candidacy? Do you think there are good people on that particular front in the Democratic Party?
I think we can get some indication from the way Trump tackled that situation. He found that the Rust Belt, that's Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, all that three states, and Michigan. That is crucial for him, because he had to break through that what was called the blue wall. So his vice presidential candidate, Vance, is a person who can influence this belt. He's from Ohio, but closest to the other things, and his background as a sort of very poor man who worked hard, he was a Marine, all that attracts that category. So that, and actually the polls are showing that has put Trump over the top.
And he's very young also.
Yeah, young, very attractive in that category. So I think it was a good gel, they got together well. So similarly, this one will have to, Kamala Harris or whoever comes, will have to balance the ticket. It's called balancing the ticket. You always have to balance the ticket. And that suggests that they will have to take something not from the solid Democratic, California, there's no point, she's already from California. That is a safe state. There's no point going to New York and places like that. There are about
but right now New York is also not sure.
Yes, but basically, there are about 10 states which are in the blue camp. So the fight is for the others. So I would think she has to go for someone on the, what you call the East Coast. Somewhere there, which balances the ticket with the West Coast California setup. So somebody from there. There are attractive women candidates, but I don't think at the present moment they'll have two women, president and vice president. So they'll have to think of a white male from
Gavin Newsom
from California.
Yeah.
So he will not be a contender because you can't have two from California. That's out of the question. So we have to be someone from the eastern side of America and probably a white male because then only you can balance the ticket.
Like Governor Shapiro, for example, from Philadelphia. So I think somebody from Rust Belt, definitely. And I think so far, like with my last night discussion, most of the... Actually, I spoke with a Republican converted now into the Democrat side, now so confused. By what's now? Because he's actually a pro-Bush but an anti-Trump Republican who has now switched sides. And he was saying somebody like Shapiro from Pennsylvania. So the governor. So you might get that this white male middle-aged vote, which is crucial, and that the Democratic Party is actually losing that vote.
The working class.
Yes, the working class, right? Indeed, somebody like the Governor Shapiro would be best option, and not somebody like Newsom, etc., from California area, which is destructive.
Do you think, Doctor, with regard to now earlier when it was Trump and Biden, the conversation very much pivoted around the fact of their age. Both of those candidates are old males, old white males. That was basically it, and they were not appealing to the younger voter bases, whether in the Republican Party nor the Democratic Party. Now you have a very younger candidate on one side, if it is Kamala Harris, and on this side again, now the old guy is going to be Donald Trump. 78, exactly. And if he becomes the president by the time he ends his 4 years, he will be exactly the age of Joe Biden. And a lot of people are concerned about the fact that Joe Biden was quite okay until he got the presidency, and then he went south from that particular point onwards. Doctor, we are running out of time. I'll give you the final word. Do you think the age factor is going to be very detrimental to Donald Trump in a fight with Kamala Harris and someone else?
No, I think he's balancing the ticket with Vance. Vance is the future of the Republican Party, as they say. He's young, he's a hard fighter, he's a typical American success story. So obviously the same type
I think he was a Democrat at one particular time. Initially, when he was a sweetheart of the Democrats, suddenly he became a follower of Donald Trump.
Earlier, he was very critical of Trump, but now he's made up for all that.
Actually, Trump himself was he was
a Democrat, registered Democrat. But now what has happened is that you will have to find another Vance, that type of person, and probably from the Rust Belt or from that other area, like Virginia, that area where you have to capture votes, and so that person will be an addition to the California-based vote that Democrats will get.
Doctor, this entire U.S. presidential election has turned out to be something very interesting for news junkies like us. This is what we live for, because every single time, whenever there is such a big story that is occurring from a former president being shot to suddenly an incumbent president dropping out and all these kinds of things, this race is gonna shape up. I don't know what will happen next Saturday, because 2 Saturdays we got really big stories coming out from the United States. So in a situation like that, do you think the Democratic Party, and do you still believe the fact that earlier what you said, the Republicans will actually prevail this time around and get the White House?
I'm almost sure of that.
What about you, though?
Very likely. I think now it is more likely than...
even with Kamala Harris?
I think so.
All right, we have to leave it at that. Dr. Sarath Amanugama, our former foreign minister, and also Dr. Udara Soisa, attorney at law and the lecturer for public international law at the Bandaranaike Center for International Studies. Appreciate it. I'm sure that we will be coming back very soon to have another discussion with regard to this election and also what's happening all around the world. Every other election has been completely shadowed by this one and these events that is occurring in the United States. Well, that's all the time we have. have for you. Thank you very much for watching. And also on a note that we are just celebrating, Ada Derana 24 is celebrating, if you would have seen earlier in the morning, 10 years on air. So thank you very much for being our source of strength and giving us the #1 position in news broadcasting here in Sri Lanka and helping us to come to that top position. We take that responsibility very seriously, and we will continue and we will promise you to bring world-class quality programming on this channel, Ada Derana 24. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.